Hey everyone, today I want to introduce you to my good friend Jen from Rumbles Paleo.
Hello.
Hey Jen. Now Jen is a very, very smiley, very talented co-creator and co-owner of Rumbles Paleo. She has a heart of pure gold and I suspect that it's also painted with glitter and sparkles.
You suspect right.
Now Jen, she divides her time between writing children's books and making delicious Rumbles Paleo snacks. And she's also designing a mind, body, soul education program for families at the moment, which sounds so exciting.
Very exciting.
Yay.
Yay.
So welcome, Jen. Now, the big reason why we've invited Jen on to have a chat with us today and share with us her experience with overcoming fears and anxieties and limiting beliefs, because we often talk down to ourselves on our head, in our heads, not on our heads, but in our heads. And, you know, we tell ourselves stories, we wind ourselves up. You know, we tell ourselves we're not good enough, we're not pretty enough, and we don't deserve love. And this is often because we hold certain beliefs about ourselves, and that monkey chatter that's going on in our head that causes us so much stress, and it can really have a massive impact on our health and also on our skin. And a calm mind really helps with a clear skin. When we become mindful of our thoughts and our beliefs, we can change the way that we respond to certain situations, and that in effect can also change the way that our skin responds as well. So Jen, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us today. Tell us a little bit about your journey and how you came to be doing what you're doing now.
Wow. The journey to running your own paleo food company is not a short journey for anyone.
Yeah, I bet.
I'll make it as short as I can for this. I was working as a primary school teacher, and then I travelled to the UK and worked as a primary school teacher, and from there I travelled to France, which was spectacular.
Amazing.
And I was running a chalet there, and I had to cook the meals for all the people there, and I just fell in love with baking. And so when I came back to Australia, I didn't really want to be a teacher anymore. And I started running this little coffee franchise. And on the side of that, I started baking cookies to go with the coffee, because coffee and cookies made sense. It's like, peas and carrots.
Yep.
And they're all made out of butter and sugar and all the foods that aren't good for your body or your skin.
Or your skin.
Exactly. And I was training at this gym around the corner from my house, and I had a commercial kitchen. And they were running this fundraiser there to raise money for juvenile diabetes, and they promoted a paleo way of eating there. So to raise money and to contribute to the fundraiser, I made paleo snacks. And the guy who ran the gym there, his name is Brian, said to me, "Hey Jen, these are like the best paleo snacks I've ever eaten." He said, "Let's go into business." And I was like, "Yep, I'm in. Let's make the best paleo snacks the universe has ever seen." And that's how I or anyone else may come to be running their own paleo food company.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
and
amazing.
Then you get a puppet and life is grand. Happy days.
Boomy is fantastic.
Yeah, Boomy, he's awesome.
Yeah, and obviously he's been a big help with your work with children as well.
Yeah, especially in the health and wellness arena. It allows me to communicate my messages of health with the younger audience, which is where my passion is.
Yeah, and certainly that passion has come about because, you had experiences from, right from a young age that has led you to, in recent times, realise the impact that limiting self-beliefs and fears and anxieties can really have on us. How did you come to recognise that they were having such an impact on you?
Okay, Crystal, so it's a bit of a long story. It wasn't until my later years in my late 20s that I even understood I had fears and anxieties. So an incident happened many, many years ago when I was 4 years old, and I was playing in a sandpit with some children, and they didn't want to play with me, which is kind of an everyday thing with kids, right?
Kids are mean.
Well, and they weren't even being mean. They just wanted to play a different game. And I took it really personally. When they went to play with somebody else, I started questioning, well, what's wrong with me? Why don't they want to play with me? And I carried that question all through my childhood years. I was so reliant on externalities to give me a sense of self that I forgot who I was inside. I wanted people to give me some sort of confirmation that what I was doing was good enough, that I was smart enough, that I was pretty enough, all those things you mentioned before. And if people didn't give me that, and they have no reason to give me that really, then I would think, what's wrong with me? So I was very externally focused, and because of that, I felt like I had no control over my life.
Yeah.
And so as I grew up, I actually developed, some really disabling eating disorders because I put my sense of self into my weight. That was something I could control. And so if I could make myself thin enough, then I was good enough. And it didn't matter what else was going on outside of me. And so I guess as I grew up and I started to outgrow my eating disorder, it was a very tumultuous time because I didn't know how to be myself. And as I started to grow in my own skin and stay true to my inner self, then I became very anxious and very fearful because I was like, what will people think of me? And then, but inside of me, when you're in a world of fear or sadness and there's that thing inside of you that just keeps pushing you forward.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is that?
Yeah.
What is that? That's what kept me going. As I was trying to be someone else and I was fearful and I was anxious about it, but there was this voice inside of me that just said, keep going, move forward. And I started to really listen to that voice because I knew there was something more. I knew I was something more.
Yeah.
And I just started to read lots of books. I, of course, sought professional help as well. I saw psychiatrists, psychologists, a number of doctors. But I just started to listen to that inner voice that said, you are enough. And that's how I started to identify that the stories I'd been telling myself, they were false, they were wrong, they made no sense. So I read a lot into people like Tony Robbins and the NLP, and I started to understand that pretty much we are what we think about. And I was just telling these stories about people not thinking I was enough or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I just pretty much started to listen to my inner self.
Yeah, which is fantastic. And, often when we do have the fear of belonging or fear of being loved, we do, seek that reassurance from other people, and we do stop listening to, to that inner self that is saying, hey, you are good enough.
Yeah, exactly.
You can do this. So you're feeling the fear and doing it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And it comes down to there's that old Greek saying, like, know thyself. I just started to understand the bits and pieces that made me up. So I think a lot of it in overcoming your fears is to actually identify them and to look at them with perspective, to actually start to go, well, hang on, what is this feeling? And what does it mean? And is it serving me? And if it's not serving you, then it's time to start shifting it, to question it and to challenge it.
Yeah, and that sounds like a really great strategy for helping you to overcome the fears and the anxieties and to see those limiting beliefs for what they are and move forward. So what have been your best strategies for really sort of putting them in their place?
So I think when it comes to overcoming fear, it serves you well to actually understand what fear is. So I find when I can think of it in a scientific way and I can see the mechanics behind it, it allows me to go in with like my toolbox and to like fine tune the bits that aren't working.
Awesome.
So I guess fear all comes back down to that fight or flight response. So we've got our brainstem, then we've got our mammalian brain with the amygdala, which fires off those fight or flights. Now, when we're in a state of fear, we shut down, that frontal lobe. So our creative processes can't work and we can't work through the fear. So now I can see it mechanically. I can actually go to myself, all right, where's my spanner? Where's my hammer? I'm going to fix a couple of bits here.
Awesome.
So I think the first thing to do is just to slow the mind down. So one of the first things I do whenever I hit a brick wall of fear or anxiety is just to stop and to breathe and to just gain control of the situation and tell myself that, hang on, I'm actually safe here.
Yeah.
I am safe. And that's really important.
Whatever our minds tell ourselves, it manifests.
Yeah. Actually, well, the brain doesn't know what's real or not. It just believes what we tell it.
Yeah.
And so when you stop and breathe and I often take myself out of my body and look back down on myself and just to get perspective. Because in the moment, nothing might be going wrong. It's just the story's going round and round. It's like a cog just spinning.
Because it all comes back to how you're perceiving the situation.
Yeah, because the truth is reality is just the story we tell ourselves. We view I like to think of life being viewed through different glasses. So we have a pair of glasses that is like crap colour.
The shit-coloured glasses.
The shit-coloured glasses. And then we have these other glasses through which everything can be rainbows and sparkles. And whichever glasses we put on is the reality we create. And so I guess that's one technique, to breathe, to get perspective, and to realise that thoughts come and go. I talk about it in a book I wrote as having the river of contemplation. And you can just get your thoughts, throw them into the river, the good ones and the not so good ones, and try and just watch the not so good ones float away, and watch them float away, but then fish back the ones that are going to serve you and propel you forward and, you know, allow you to be productive, and keep those ones. I like to make things very, very visual. I like to ask myself small questions as well. The brain loves questions. When you try and be didactic, is that the word? Didactic, whatever that word is. When you try and be that way, then the brain goes into holy cow, holy smokes, nah, too much. It's like when you're trying to work with children, you say to them, don't do that, that's wrong. Or instead you say, all right, well, let's look at this. How can we do this differently? What could we do that might, you know, have a better solution? So the brain just loves to mold itself around these questions. And the more we ask the question, the more the brain plays on it, and the more that gets stored into our long-term memories. So just using little questions. So ask yourself, in this moment, if kindness were my top priority to myself, how would I behave differently? Or in this moment, if health was my top priority, how would I behave differently? And then just take small actions as well. You know, big actions, oh my God, how am I ever going to get this assignment done? How am I ever going to overcome this depression? How am I ever going to, you know, lose 50 kilos? Well, stop. You'll put yourself into fear mode if you do that. Take one small action. Well, right in this moment, can you do one little thing that's going to improve the situation? So little questions, little steps. Just try to reverse the thought. Sometimes people get in this state of panic. The world's falling down. Everything's going wrong. Reverse it.
So if we're going to the fridge to get some chocolate,
yes,
we surf the urge for a little while, see if you still want chocolate in 5 minutes' time.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, then if in 5 minutes you want it, well, maybe have it and say to yourself, can I have just 2 pieces as opposed to the whole block? And I guess don't beat yourself up either. It's be kind to yourself.
Yeah, that's certainly good advice. And, you know, the more that we can calm down the monkey chatter, the more we can also calm down our skin if our skin's flaring up and erupting and breaking out and all that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah, that's it.
So, you know, and these are great strategies, Jen. So what kind of a difference have you seen in your life as a result of implementing some of these things? You know what?
I think back to the years of me stressing about irrelevant things or beating myself up, and I think of all the moments where I could have had joy, where I could have had happiness, where I could have been. I remember being on a cruise ship in Croatia on the Dalmatian coast, and it was spectacular, and I had the worst holiday of my life because I was so self-conscious of my body and what I looked like. And I think I wasted those, well, not wasted because it's made me the person I am today, but I could have had such a wonderful time. I mean, I was in Europe on a cruise ship. So now I have these strategies. It's quite easy for me, quickly for me to say, well, do I want to sit here and be miserable? Or could I just stop and embrace the moment? Because truth is, this moment could be the best moment of my life. Times are ticking. We're all getting closer to our death. I'm going to be dead soon. Sorry to get morose. But I just do not want to waste one more second, Crystal, on beating myself up.
And the reality is we only live in the present moment. We can't live in the future. We can't live in the past that's been. You know, if we're worrying about, you know, what's happened in the past or anxious about what's going to happen in the future, then we're kind of ignoring what's happening right now.
That's it. And I think that's why I write kids' books, because I can create any reality I want to. If I want kangaroos jumping out of ice cream cakes, paleo ice cream cakes, of course. Well, God damn it, I'm going to think that in my head, and I'm going to have kangaroos jumping out of cakes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Boomy likes that sort of stuff.
I bet he does. I bet he does.
That's why I've got puppets, because I can, and I don't want to waste my my short time in this life without a puppet.
Life is better with puppets, hey?
Absolutely. I say that every day.
And Boomy is such a cute puppet. And he's also the main character in the book you mentioned before when you were talking about the River of Contemplation. It was Boomy and the Woker Bug. So what is a Woker Bug?
Well, a Woker Bug, it's not a flying platypus, which most people think it is. It's actually a set of 6 lessons that Boomy's tribal elder taught him back in the Paleolithic age, like from 40,000 years ago. So the Woker Bug and the 6 lessons are actually based on strategies I've used to get me through my own fear and anxiety as I've gotten older. So do you want me to tell you what the 6 lessons are?
Please, don't leave us in suspense.
Right. So the universe told Canelo, Boomy's tribal elder, 6 lessons to live by in order to live from a place of love and kindness and peace. So the first one is to smile with your 5 eyes, which involves, if you don't know what 5 eyes are.
I don't think I've got 5 eyes.
Well, you do. Everybody does. Plants, animals, people, they all have them. So we have our 2 regular eyes. We have an eye in our forehead. We have an eye in our heart and an eye in our belly. Now, when we stop and focus on those parts of the body, they're all loosely to match up with chakras. Gotcha. When we stop and pretend there's little eyes there, and I say eyes to help, to make it fun for the kids, and pretend they're all smiling, it helps us to connect with ourselves, to feel grounded again. And when we pretend to be smiling with our whole body, also pull your shoulders up, head up, and just turn them, your mouth up and all your eyes like they're smiling, then it's hard to feel, lost in sad thoughts. Yeah. So it's a way to help kids feel connected and to alter their physiology, so that they can feel connected and from a safe place. Second of the Woker Bug is to always follow the language of love as spoken by your heart. Now, so many times in life, we do things in life that we think we should do, or we behave a way we think people should, the way we think people want us to act. But when we listen to our heart and we follow life from that perspective, then we keep on track and we stay true to ourselves. And the third part of the Woker Bug is to practice gratitude. So to know that life's not just about you. And when you do make it about you, often we end up in a world of, because we're like, me.
Yep.
But one of my strategies for feeling calm and peace is to just go and help other people. Yeah. It's amazing how quickly you can turn your thoughts around and your sense of being by just going and saying to your mum, to your dad, to your neighbour, whatever, hey, can I help you out? What can I do? Then I've got, we're up to number 4, which would be to live in fascination. Now, this room, everything, when we start to get fascinated with things, we get out of our heads and we come from a place of curiosity, which stimulates our mind and takes us away from anxiety and fear. So if you get fascinated about something, say Boomy's hair here, like, wow, where does Boomy's hair come from? Why is it black? And, it's actually wool. Who made that wool? What sheep did it come from? Is that sheep from Timbuktu? When you start to look at things and get really fascinated with them, you'll see that there's nothing boring in this world. And it helps really well if you're doing a repetitive task to get fascinated with what you're doing. It just makes life seem a whole lot more interesting. Number 5 is to never force the world, let the world come to you, which is to help people learn about patience, okay? There's a time for desiring and wanting, and then there's a time for being desireless and letting things happen. For example, if you were to plant a seed, you can't go grow right now. You have to sit and wait. It's about understanding patience and just letting the world work for you sometimes. When you try to force things to happen, they often don't. Especially with children, when you try to force kids to do something, or if you demand someone to pass you that plate, give me that plate, well, things don't go your way. People resist, the world resists. Yeah. So it's about just being patient and letting things unfold, letting nature take its course.
Going with the flow.
Yeah. And the last one is how may I serve, which kind of gets back to the gratitude. It's about understanding that we're all connected. I mean, how would you behave differently if you knew that every single person you met, you could alter the course of their lives? Imagine how you would treat others differently and how you could just make this world such a more amazing place, because you don't know what your conversation with someone or the girl serving you at a shop, you don't know how one word is going to impact her life forever.
Yeah.
So it's about just understanding that we're all connected and what we do should be for the greater good of everyone, because that impacts the way the whole world, it's that whole butterfly effect.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Wow.
that's the work.
That's amazing, Jen.
And sometimes if I'm in a situation, I might just run through the worker bug in my head, and I will smile with my 5 eyes. I will be grateful. I will think of the things I love. I will become fascinated. And I pretty much will run through them in 10, 20 seconds. And it instantly just uplifts my mood. And I think it will be spectacular for children.
Yeah,
I
I'm
know
sure
it will be.
Well, I mean, today I came in and saw a reading that you did for children down at the Paleo Cafe. They loved it. I mean, apart from the little one who was doing this when he was smiling with his 5 eyes because he was concentrating so hard, like the girls, they absolutely loved it. Like you could just see them like just go, bing.
Da, da, da.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love reading this book with the kids, and I love their reactions to it. It's makes my heart sing.
Yeah.
Because as I had so many problems growing up, it is my mission and is my purpose to make sure that nobody has to go through what I put myself through, and I will not rest until the day I die in spreading these messages.
Oh, that's lovely, Jen. Yay. So thank you so much for coming and sharing your experience and your passion with us today for all this kind of thing. And I think that, these strategies that you've shared will really help people, because, I know for myself, there was a time when my skin was horrific and I would sit on the computer, I would be on the forums, I'd be like winding myself up and up and up and just, curling in on myself. So I was almost, imploding, just thinking about what was going on with my skin and how was I going to fix it. And it wasn't until I started to turn that attention outwards towards other people that things started to shift a little bit for me. So, these strategies are going to be so, so useful for people who are, just all up in their head, stressing and anxious about the skin, the way they look, the way they feel. It's going to be huge.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think we should get a little bit more animalistic about this. Sometimes I think about like an otter or a giraffe or something, and I'm like, is the giraffe's just going around being a giraffe, or an otter is just living out its life in its otterness. We need to learn to do that as humans. Like I need to go around and just live in my Jenniness, and you need to just go around and live in your crystalness. So that's just an ending thought for you, and thank you for having me, and enjoy living life in your crystalness.
That is quite all right. Now, Jen, where can we find you and Boomy and the worker bug?
Well, sometimes you can find us hiding underneath mushrooms. But apart from that, if you can't find us, we have a couple of websites.
Awesome.
RumblesPaleo.com, or you can find us at Boomy, which is spelt B-U-M-I. Reads like bummy, but trust me, it's Boomy.
Awesome.
You can find us at boomyandfriends.com as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jen. And thank you everyone for joining us today on Mind, Body, Beauty. If you like the show, please like, share, subscribe, especially if you have friends or family that you think might really benefit from what Jen has shared with us today. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again next time.